And now, our feature presentation.
You are watching a master at work.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rafael Chacín, and here we are at another episode of the Comeback Club with Rafael Chacín and my co-host Zenith. Because every episode, every week, we get about the details about what's going to happen at the war of the mixed martial arts and wrestling during for the pay-per-views like UFC, WWE, AEW, PFL. So right now we're got to get excited. So this is like the podcast for all these mixed martial arts and wrestling fans who are united together like a really knockout. So here we are in another episode. So right now on this episode, we're gonna digest into important topics. So we're gonna talk about for the review of the Elimination Chamber that happens on Perth, Australia, and the UFC Fight Night in Mexico City, as known as Ciudad de Mexico, which is unbelievable. And there are some details out of the go for the main event, and well, there's something to talk about it. So right now, here it is, my co-host Zenith. So how you feel about this, right?
Yeah, what's up? What's up? Thank you for the people as well, our loyal followers. We got Robert, Daniel, always here. You know what I'm saying? Third episode deep. You guys are here on time, ready to go and ready to rock and roll with us. So thank you so much for being here. And my man laid it out perfectly. We got Elimination Chamber recapping. We got Fight Night Mexico, big night for a lot of fighters from that side of the world, man. Just down. I was gonna say down south, but I was gonna say South America. Yeah. Great. I had a fun time watching it. A lot of competitive fights, and then when we have some time, we'll get into the big card that is Fight Night this weekend. The main event with the heavyweights, not really that interested. We kind of know the winner of that one already, not to count out Rosenstrike, but there's a lot of undefeated fighters in this upcoming Fight Night that is gonna seize the opportunity and take full advantage of unlocking the full potential of still being undefeated. And we also are gonna like Rafael said it perfectly. I want to talk about it right off the back, but with Brian Ortega. But we're gonna hold that off for later on in the show. But a lot of stuff planned, and let's get back over to you, Rafael.
Yeah, there you go. Because right now, first and foremost, we're just talking about for the Fight Night in Mexico City, which is Brando Moreno versus Brando Royal. I know this is gonna be like a really shocking at all for this one because with the Dolls like the saga, it'd be like a cautionary tale for Mexico City. But in that fight right here, I mean, that was like there's nothing to have to go for the elevation. What's the difference right here? Because usually this like usually ending off with the fight with a submission, also for a knockout. But this one is gonna be like a pretty obviously for the main event between Brando Moreno versus Brando Royal. It became like a split decision. And for the first and the foremost, because everybody thought the Fight Night in Mexico City will be like a brilliant night, a great night from Latino athletes, from Latino fighters. But I think it's getting work right here because we just see like at a lot of upsets, but of course we just see like at a lot of surprises, all the finishes. So yeah, it's a lot of the things happening to go for it. But between Brando Moreno versus Brando Royal, I think the Brando Royal, they just won by split decision, which is like unbelievable. And there's a lot of the fans that had a good discussion all about this because pretty much had to go to because the judges had to go to stand up with each other for our decisions because it just hoped it became like a thing right here. But I think it would good because not scoring well for a takedown doesn't lead to much. I mean, except for the fight, you got to take it for a get it up immediately. But if someone's literally forcing, taking it down, I mean, that's the really controlled time. I mean, they're changing off of the complexion of that fight because they knew something was off for the outside to Mirano, just lost the decision versus Dos Santos. This is like the really different because it's not very similar. This is very different at all between Brando Moreno versus Brando Royal. But right now, it's kind of like a completely out of control. But then we're just getting like a shock because everybody thinks it's gonna be like a great night for Mexican fighters, but it didn't happen because there's a lot of upsets, including that one between Moreno versus Royal.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you don't mind sharing my screen, yeah, you're absolutely
There you
right.
go.
There was a lot of upsets in this fight night, but you gotta admit the celebration of opening up the new PI and a lot of people that maybe wouldn't have been on a court like this. Not saying this was anything bigger than what it was. It was really that. It was a celebration for the Mexican PI and yes, I would see your argument with that, but I would almost rebuttal with the new MMA rules because of the fact that now if you get a takedown and you don't really do anything with it, we've seen some upsets where people got like 6 takedowns but didn't win the fight, and people may be like, yo, what the hell, he got 6 takedowns, but you gotta admit he got 6 takedowns, and in the old MMA unified rules he would have won that fight because you get a takedown, you win the round. But with this new unified MMA rules, you gotta have some groundwork, you gotta have some transitions on the ground, you have to have some control on the ground. So the fact that some of these fighters took them down, immediately popped back up, and then the other fighters who popped back up was more aggressive, landed the most significant shorts and shots. And we have to take account too. Like, I'm not disagreeing with you, Rafael. I agree with you. But I think the confusion lies in a lot of the times is the old MMA rules and the new MMA rules. Now that all of these cities and states and countries are adapting the new MMA rules, you have to judge it off of base. These judges are now looking at damage almost over everything, right? At first, it would have came down to damage and octagon control. We used to have Mike and Joe read it to us all the time in Anik, but now it's like the judges has almost flipped. It's like if you land a more significant shot, if your opponent is bleeding and having trouble because of that significant shot, we've seen a lot of the judges go the way of the more aggressive, we just seen it in Sean Strickland versus Duplessis. Sean Strickland, in my mind, in the old unified rules, you have to dominate a champion to win the fight. Sean Strickland, in my eyes, won that fight. But in the new unified rules, Duplessis was landing the more aggressive shots. Yes, he missed more. Yes, he looked like he couldn't catch Sean at times. In the old rules, Sean Strickland wins that fight. In the new rules, Duplessis wins the fight because of the significant blows. And I don't really care for him as a commentary, but because he kind of takes it to the extreme sometimes. But Dominic Cruz utilized it perfectly on a couple of main events ago. He said because of the significant cuts, these judges are looking at that. When it came down to the main event, I'm sorry to take up too much time here. I think both competitors, Brandon Moreno, he's one of my favorite fighters in that division. He the division is alive because of him. I mean, like, yes, we have your Figueroa that kept it alive, and yes, we have the Storter in Mighty Mouse, the legend of the division. But at the end of the day, Moreno was that division. When he came champion of that division, and when he was rising up to become champion, became competitive for the first time, he automatically became a household name, a pride Mexican fighter. And who else better to celebrate it with the main event? Obviously, it didn't go his way, but at the end of the day, it was a split. It didn't. Some people say he won. Some people say he didn't. It's not like he went out there and he got knocked out. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Brandon Reno. He might have a big fight with Henry Cejudo coming up. I think Henry Cejudo's calling him out. So that's great. And the reason why I really tuned into this fight is because, Brandon Moreno and Yoel and Ortega. But it's mostly because the flyweight fight at the top was always going to be exciting. And so much great flyweights coming up in rankings, but I took up too much time already. That was long-winded. I apologize. Back to you, Raphael.
Yeah, you're right about it. You had the point. I mean, their striking was literally just like a looping shots. Not that I just got it because I'm thinking about for the two jabs all the fight. Not much of the energy has usually had either because there's something I had to go for it because I was really surprised how limited Moreno game plan looked on that fight because it seems like they had to constantly backing off and looking it out for overhands when handing like a low kick with a little variation. I mean, Royal's cardio was really insane. To fight in that pace on their short notice in Mexico was unbelievable because they think it's gotta be was getting raw, but he definitely had to better knockout from the main event. I mean, there was like a clinch about it. like a clinch. I mean, it seems like to go for the weird performance, he fought like more aggressively despite how dangerous it was. Because, like I told it, you had to be careful about Brando Royo because they're striking and grappling that just made like a really insane. I mean, for that motivation for Moreno, he seems like he regressed technically of fights with no urgency. Maybe all that title fights has been taken toll of him. I mean, if people did just if people did just see like deserve to lose for stalling like that, it was such a close fight. But also I think Roy's gonna beat up for Alexander Pantoja anytime. But imagine this: Alexander Pantoja put it out for 5-0 with his fingers and show off out of him. I mean, there's gonna be like a counter striker. I mean, what did happen with like this one? I mean, they got to try to cook it up. I mean, on the main event between the fight night and Mexico, they had a great night with two United States Americans winning the main events. So the first that they got for Brian Ortega winning over against Jair Rodriguez, and then Brando Royo winning against Brando Moreno. I mean, that makes it a lot of sense because it just felt like it just landed for the biggest shots in every round, but which is nothing to swear that he spam over right with the leg kicks, with Royal True about the Bollywood strikes, because personally, they just seem like the case here that got for 4 rounds. I mean, it feels like a wild card. It don't even set to feel like a few times. But we don't forget about the run around and maybe like a throw strike or two, just filling out like very obviously. And he always trained like at a high elevation where he probably helped quite a bit on that fight.
Yeah, I love the fact that you brought up the elevation because Mexico City is sitting at 7,000, I believe, above sea level, and where he's from is sitting at 5,000 above sea level. Like he is not I would say a coastal fighter. Like he doesn't train in California. This guy lives in Denver, so high elevation as is, 2,000 less than Mexico. And I'm not surprised that he beat Moreno because Moreno could have won the fight. It could have gone both ways. But I just don't know what to do with the division now. I don't think you go and you give him another title shot, even though he looked pretty good. I just feel like Amir is coming up in the rankings, and I just think he deserves the title shot. Even the homie that's fighting this weekend, oh my God, Muhammad. He's coming up. I believe he's like 11th in the rankings. He deserves a title shot eventually. I don't want to rush the kid, but at that division, at Pantoja sitting on top, like you look at Rovell, you look at Moreno, you look at Figueroa, you have all these guys just rotating. I mean, like if you look at Moreno's fight, the last 8 fights is against three people. You know what I'm saying? The top 5 just keeps on rotating. And what I'm hoping for is we get a rise of Muhammad. And we got Amir. Amir's right there for the taking. And I just think if you Pantoja, I'm preparing to beat people like that. Because at the end of the day, Moreno and Rovell, I'm not calling them journeyman by all means, but they're gonna accept fights. They're gonna continue being in the top 10, no matter what in the flyweight division. But it's just that times are changing, man. You see it with the Chimayas, the Shakawats of the world. You see it with the Nurmagomedovs of the world. You see it with the new up and comers of the world. And when they get the title shot, it's game over. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then now in the lighter weight classes, I mean, like you just seen it with Ilya Topuria. You see the changing of the tides, and MMA does this every couple of years. It resets with the changing of the tides, and you're seeing it right now. And with these lower weight classes, like if I'm Pantoja, like I'm preparing for Muhammad, I'm preparing for Amir. Those are the best fighters in that division coming up, and just how Shakawat and Shamaya is gonna get theirs one day. These flyweights, I mean, like this division's coming up to be a really exciting division to watch, and it's always putting on great fights. I'm gonna let you tackle this featherweight bout unless you have anything else to say about the main event.
Yeah, I mean the main event was very they don't know about what the game plan or the camp was Moreno, but the striking looks very bold. I mean, what the word had the combinations about in those fights. I mean, And that fight on Mexico City, everybody thought it's gonna be like a great night from Brandon Moreno. But in that rounds right here, I think Brandon Moreno looks very awful. They have a sloppy striking, no game plan. I mean, it just fell up because
Yeah.
every round was basically like a coin toss. I mean, they got to flip a 15 coins. It's not to the mark for they get like 9 or 10 heads instead of 7 or 8. I mean, for Royal, that was like a great performance. And people did not expect, especially how look at the walkout. I mean, most of the punches were blocked, and I just feel like Moreno did more like a lot of damage. But Royal just looked very busy. Most of the punches hit arms, and Moreno's shots were a lot heavier. But eventually, he just landed more flush, harder strikes constantly, which was especially relevant for the first and fifth rounds. But in that case of Jay Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega, I mean, boy, what can I tell about it? That was very shocking. And Brian Ortega just gonna take it like a really good action about the submission. And I mean, he could have knocked you down or submission. I mean, that has to be like a master class in submission. And Jerry Rodriguez could have taken it. I mean, he looks very like a very tired and disappointing for everything. I mean, that because it's gonna face it because it happens with a statute for a limit. Statute for a limit that they had to do it. I mean, honestly, I have to go over it because Fit 8, Fit 11 is pretty much for the fight right here. I mean, what are some athletes? They would do like a loser inch or two of the roller. There has to be the certain like how short it is. I mean, what was like the issue? There's nothing. There's nothing about it. I mean, Ortega's definitely taller because he was more shorter than Madsen at the face up. But I mean, if the good happened this one, but it feels like because when it happens in small packages, they're already mighty. And then Brian Ortega just kind of like a grappling and striking styles for everything. I mean, they just couldn't land it. But I think Jerry Rodriguez was really fell off at that moment. But Brian Ortega was taking over that control.
You nailed it on the head. Taking over that control. Brian Ortega, used to be, when MMA was new on the scene and nobody really understood it so far as casuals. Joe Rogan used to get mad at a lot of these boxing guys because they used to be like, "What did we learn from that fight?" And then MMA and Joe Rogan used to be like, "Dude, what are you talking about? We learned a lot from that fight." You know what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna say any heads because they came, they did their research and now they know how to call these proper fights. But at the end of the day, when you look at this fight, we learned so much from Brian Ortega here. We learned that first off, he rolled his ankle and jumping at the start of the fight after this guy is just injured for the last, it seems like 5 years, 3 years out of his career. You know what I'm saying? He's facing the top of the top, showed that he can be at the top, and then he just gets adversity after adversity after adversity after adversity. And what he proved here is he proved that he can overcome. I'm kind of surprised how your year didn't keep his composure. I mean, like, you're fighting in elevation. I know you're from there, but at the end of the day, your year, like, you've never been known for a gas tank like I'm slaughtering his name. You never been known for one of these gas tank kind of fighters like Tony Ferguson in his prime, would I say? The homie that just beat Henry Cejudo. You know what I'm saying? You're known for your technique and your striking, and for him to almost hurt Brian Ortega and to rush it almost drained his tank. And I just believe in the 5-round fight, if he was more composed there, he would have been able to survive what came next. And what did come next? What came next is Brian Ortega get tested in round 1, deal with the adversity, overcome the adversity, get back through to himself, fight through the pain of his rolled ankle, and really get his mind back in the game. Is like, is this the Brian Ortega that went like 13-0 before losing to one of the greats in the division? Is this going to be the Brian Ortega that just folds? Brian Ortega only loses against the best fighters in that division, and that tells you something about Brian Ortega. He deserves to be at the top. And when you overcome that diversity, it tells you a lot about you as a person. It's like he couldn't take this loss. Nothing was going to let him stop him from taking this loss. And when when obviously he overcame that stampede of punches of Uriel trying to just put him out, Uriel gassed his tank. Yeah, Yair still could have had some stamina, but as soon as he took him to the ground, you kind of already knew that Yair was kind of winded, and Brian Ortega's BJJ is just gonna take over, and it's vintage. It's vintage Brian Ortega we just seen, and that's just beautiful to watch. Rodriguez is just gonna be a highly respected a fighter in that division, but he needs to change some stuff. You see strikers like Max Holloway take you down, and that's respectable. You see Brian Ortega take you down, and the reason why these people know you're dangerous, so they don't want to strike with you. Not saying that Max striked with him, obviously, but and obviously Alex did Alex, but at the end of the day, they're gonna take you down. So you're really just you need to get back to the drawing board and work on some BJJ defense. I'm not just saying that could happen to anybody. You could be a black belt and get tapped, but I'm just saying you know that people is going to take you down because your striking is elite. So at the end of the day, I want to see him fight for a championship again. But at the end of the day, you just need to fix some certain things because this sport is super, super hard. And that's why you see fighters don't take short notice fights. You don't see fighters come in and take short notice fights a lot of the times because of the fact that they don't want to put the body of the thing on the line. And I'm just using that as an example of, we do cover news on this show, and since we're running through topics, that is an example. There's a lot of rumors out there saying that Duplessis denied the fight against Adesanya at UFC 300, and yeah, he did. That is true, but at the end of the day, why we're not 100% on those people that fight, what Izzy was saying, but at the end of the day, like, why put yourself in jeopardy? You know what I'm saying? So go back to the drawing board and for your Rodriguez and put in some work. And for Brian Ortega, I see 1 or 2 more fights away from a title shot. I know a lot of people are trying to feed him to Ilya right now, but I don't think right now is the time. I think there's a lot of other notable candidates in that division that deserves a title shot outside of him. We have one undefeated fighter as well in that division that easily deserves a title shot. He's on like an 8-fight winning streak. Like, that's the olden days. You don't see that no more. So give that title, unless your name is unless I'm not even want to Baham Muhammad. Unless your name is him, you're never gonna get a title shot apparently. But that being said, I'll digress. Go right ahead, Rafael.
Yeah, I mean, the main card was very look solid, but I think the opportunity to see make it to the big. I mean, I was watching the fight night in Mexico City, and that was very good fights, and everybody thinks it's gonna be like a great night for Latino fighters up there. But I mean, this is gonna be a really excited to putting on because this is the big important. I mean, thinking about it, because if they're gonna bring the fight night in Mexico City, which they had a great impact not only on Mexican fighters, but also they just had a very impact in Central American fighters. Also, if they gotta put UFC 301 on Brazil, because they have a very good impact on Brazil fighters, they're gonna make it. They're gonna make it a very, very emotional about it, because it's gonna be it'll really happen like this one. But I think it's just it just having a great impact on that one because they have to go with. And right now, let's see for the next topic. So right now, let's see for the comments right here. Shout out to Robert Pena in the building. Also, we got Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Robert Pena is in the building. So it is what it is. And Afakasi waited to say, what's up, Rafucho? RIP, Virgil Vincent. So we have some sad news right here. So what are the former wrestlers like Virgil has dead at 61? And I'm not gonna lie for this because this one is it'll really hurt about it. So the news came out for today. Virtue, whose real name is Michael Jones, as known as Soul Train Jones and Vincent. I mean, the pro wrestling knows during the square circle has died Wednesday. He was 61. The cause of death was 9 million release. I mean, Mark Charles had a referee for several smaller politicians. They just revealed on social media to say, but dear friends, it's a great sorrow that I bring news from the Jones family of the passing of below Michael Jones, who we all know as Virtual Business Soul Trains, which passed peacefully at the hospital mourning. and asked you to pray that his family. I mean, that was very tough about it. And first and foremost, he became like the bodyguard for $1 million man Ted DiBiase. And he didn't bowl for people, all the moments for the company, and that hand with Andre the Giant beating Hulk Hogan for the World Heavyweight Championship after nearly 5 years. And he was at the corner of DiBiase and Andre in a tag team match against Hogan and Randy Savage. And he became like a part of the storyline in the 1991 Royal Rumble when he defeated DiBiase at WrestleMania for the $1 Million Company. I mean, that could have happened because this kind of like a very, very important for this career. But let's see what they got over here. All right, so there's like the image right here. So they got Bobby Heenan along with Virgil, and of course they got Andre the Giant and Ted DiBiase. So my people didn't know about this for Virgil about it. So he's just like the great legend over this one here. So he was retired of full-time wrestling in 2000, but he made like the appearances for another companies, including WWE. He appeared at All Elite Wrestling and Soul Train Jones in 2019. After that career, he became a mainstay for wrestling conventions, signing autographs from the fans. Before his death, he revealed in 2022 he battled a number of health issues, including 2 strokes and diagnosis. He also he diagnosed with stage colon cancer. I mean, they just found out for everything. And what are the fun facts about it? He moved to the WWE in 1996 as Mason. He became like a security guard for the dominant New World Order faction. We helped Scully for the writing wars between WWF and WCW at that time. So yeah, that's very sad news for the wrestling moments. So yeah, so my prayers and blessings for the almighty Virgil, which is like a great faction for the New Order, and he became like a part of the faction along with Ted DiBiase Jr.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wasn't, too familiar with him, but you laid it down right down on the nail. I'm talking about his history, and I would just want to touch on, a lot of the times these guys are on the road for, back in the early days, like 300 days of the year and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And not only the mental and physical stress on their body, but just that right there. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that's the reason why, but sometimes you look at it and you gotta appreciate them when they're here, because you never know, when their time is done. I know the wrestling world lost Bray Wyatt a couple years back, and that hit hard. You know what I'm saying? So, the wrestling world definitely lost a good one, and thoughts and prayers with his family.
Yeah, exactly. So right now it's very tragic for the wrestling news, but the show must go on, and right now we just keep it like continue to
Absolutely.
all these mixed martial arts fans, all the wrestling fans. So we keep it like a very content. So right now, let's just keep it moving on for the second topic, which is like a review for the Elimination Chamber on Perth, Australia. And man, certainly the action was very good at all. I mean, the booking was really predictable, which isn't always so bad, but they also like the setting love like for WrestleMania. And if you see like a few chamber matches, there's nothing very special in those matches. I mean, that company like WWE has a long history of killing their cage gimmicks, but I cannot believe that some of those people's in the main match that just lost because of outside interference. I mean, first and foremost, the Elimination Chamber for Women's was one of the better. I mean, Tiffany was absolutely like a star and probably their best natural athlete who got everything together since Charlotte. I mean, she had herself favorite for Money in the Bank a title run for that year, but I was very impressed as Raquel as well. I mean, her and Belair had a good chemistry, but I think she needs like heel turn. But the fact that the men's elimination chamber was really fine. I mean, it definitely needed like a high flyer, another heel, and the match between Nakamura or don't have a work. But I mean, Randy Orton's selling was very superb. I mean, I'm very glad that Drew won, but doing like an interference elimination twice was very, very, very too much at all. Because if you saw what Logan Paul was doing off of the brass knuckles, I mean, imagine that because it's seeming like a very deja vu, but then Randy Orton just snap it away for the RKO, but then they just like very too late about it. I mean, the story of Drew having like the title taken for doing the interference now to winning the matches by interference. I mean, it's very like a pretty good story. I mean, they just wanted to convince that Bloodline cost Rollins and the title, and Drew takes like the opportunity again. But I think the most valuable player, the MVP, was none other than Tiffany Stratton, and then the MVP of the Elimination Chamber for the men was definitely Randy Orton. So right now I'll let you go for my co-host Cyan Sani about for the Elimination Chamber, not only between the man and the woman, who became like very particular at Perth, Australia. Also, shout out to my brother down under Afakasi Waiter. He's rocking off for Australia. He's a great Raiders content creator, wrestling. So back to you, Cyan.
That's what's up. Let's get it. Yes. Shout out to yes. I'm sorry for slaughtering that. That was bad. Anyways, but yeah, you nailed it perfectly. Coming in, I'm a casual WWE fan. I usually don't watch year round. I usually watch when it gets closer to WrestleMania, starting around the Royal Rumble, Crown Jewelish at that time. That being said, honestly, you nailed it on the head. I was surprised. I didn't really know that much about Tiffany. I knew she was coming up. I knew she did a thing, for a while at NXT. I knew she was a newer face to the industry, but damn, she definitely had that match going. You know what I'm saying? And I was excited to watch. Raquel did her thing. Like, you nailed it on the head. All of them. That was a great match to watch. It came down to the wire between the two women that we both thought it was going to go to, and what not to set it up with the man winning and going after that title at WrestleMania. And like you said perfectly, a lot of this was predicted, but at the end of the day, it is a plot. It is a storyline that they were setting up to finish these stories or have a bigger matches at WrestleMania. So, obviously we kind of knew that, Nia Jax wasn't gonna, we'll get into that, wasn't gonna take it in Australia. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's good storylines that they're trying to set up. And when you get back to the men's elimination chamber, Drew McIntyre, I'm surprised that, I'm not surprised that, I wouldn't say that. I would just say I respect the WWE for scripting Logan Paul into that match that long and in it, the way it kind of ended. It just shows that hard work does pay off. He is putting in the time at the PI and taking his WWE career serious. So, when you get to share the ring with someone like Bobby Lashley and Kevin Owens and all the greats that was in that match, LA Knight and stuff, for you to be the final three with legends like Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, that's a nudge in his career. You know what I'm saying? Put that on his resume. And if you see Logan Paul in 5 or 10 years, if he does take this WWE serious, maybe can compete for a strap. I mean, but right now is just not his moment. Should have been Randy Orton's moment. We've seen how that ended. Good entertainment by Randy Orton in general, man. That guy is just a stud. He just knows how to entertain. Fully always puts his body on the line. And then when it goes to Drew McIntyre and just the theme, it just sounds like revenge and redeeming and finishing stories this WrestleMania. And then you see that a guy that clearly, carried the company at the lowest point, literally won the championship, but didn't even get the fans' presence. And that's 50% of it. You know what I'm saying? When you walk out with the brand new strap, you work your whole career to have the fans cheering your name, and he didn't get that. You know what I'm saying? And Seth Rollins, as much as I respect him and love watching him as an entertainer and a superstar, I just think it's time for new regimes. It's time for the Cody Rhodes and the Drew McIntyre regimes, and we'll talk about that when that gets closer. But I'm excited for that matchup and how it ended. And back to you, Rafael.
Yes, I'm very excited about it because I'm right now between for the Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch that are going to WrestleMania, and then they had Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. I mean, I'm very convinced whether it comes because I really thought it was gonna be like a great idea for everything's gonna be like a really insane, but I mean, anything can happen on those fights in WrestleMania. I mean,
Oh yeah.
at Elimination Chamber, that was very a solid show, but I don't know why those persons are very like a complaint about for the crown, but stadium reaction because those Australian fans are very, very different. Very different. If you're gonna scream Aussie, 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 oi, 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 because they just building up for different. I mean, there's one thing I had to go for it. I mean, at this point, Triple H and that organization, which is WWE, we had to realize they gotta me like they need to create something brand new. They need to something create like very involved for those fans. I mean, if the competition, which is the AEW, has one or one not having a division as very stag or showcasing the program as WWE, there's gonna be like a time for making one. I mean, they gotta be like the make card title for the women's and watch the roster making a most of it. I mean, people how crazy they gotta be hell look at a match. So I think it's got the big ups for Tiffany and Logan got Reka behind repair for today. I mean, and that point because they just really go at it. I mean, they gotta be like a very shocking because I would just want to take in a moment and appreciate how Orton saw that brass knuck shot. I mean, they just competed being smacked by prime Mike Tyson. That was very beautiful. I mean, when you compare about the companies where the supplies like boo and why how did the building out for the thing was sort of the surprise. Also, when the companies do logical predicting booing, the booking was very predictable and it got me like a waste of time. But I mean, those crowd in that match on the Elimination Chamber was really solid. And some people they just complained about it, but I think the other reason that Tiffany Stratton they just made it like a it could be like a very competitor against Rhea Ripley. But I think that Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley, I mean, this is gonna be like a really excited to watch. I mean, for that reason, they just had 3 matches confirmed. First, they got Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, then Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley for the women's champion. Also, they just got Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Champion. I mean, imagine about 3 fights. I mean, that could be like a perfect 2 night for those wrestling fans because they're gonna need like a bring more energy, more storylines, and of course, they're gonna need like a loud pop. We're gonna see who's gonna win, who's gonna lose. Everything could happen on those fights that confirm on WrestleMania. And for that simple, 2 women like Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley, they're letting it out because the women's division at first it was seen like a very weak, but after we just saw for Liv Morgan, Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley, they're just pretty solid at all. And with Rhea Ripley as a champion, they just really know how the women's division they stack a lot to the highest level, including for the men's division.
Yeah, you mean like you nailed it on the head. In Philadelphia, it's just turning out to be amazing, amazing chord and 2 nights. You know what I'm saying? You got multiple championship fights and actually storylines that I somewhat care about more than in recent years. You know, we all had those boring ass Brock Lesnar versus Roman events where we don't care a hell about that. You know what I'm saying? Let's just do super moves over and over again. And even if you look at some of the storylines being set up in the undercard, you know, I know the prestigious title is Rhea Ripley's, but we got Io Sky's title on the line with Damage Control and Bailey, and then you got Red Judgment there, you know, defending their championships over and over again. Like, who's going to be the team that takes them out? And you know, there's going to be some kind of tag team, fatal four-way, or a lot of all these other fun matches that they put on. So that being said, I mean, like WrestleMania is looking, the main events is looking good. We still don't know how it's going to end with The Rock. We don't know how it's going to end with maybe another superstar coming back and rumors. It is just going to be fun. And then, you know, with a lot of other titles like Gunther, what do we do with Gunther? Who is he going to face up against? Is that superstar that is rumored to come back? Like they're saying that Brock Lesnar could come back and try to defeat Hunter for the internet. And, you know, there's so much rumors out there. And then you got Logan Paul that is, Could we see some kind of? I didn't watch really anything this week on Monday night yet. Got to go back and Hulu it. But at the end of the day, could we see something like a legend like Randy Orton going against Logan Paul? You never know what could happen. You know what I'm saying? There's so much storylines that could go, and LA Knight's gonna make his appearance at WrestleMania. So who is he gonna face? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of fun matchups, and just hope for the best and hope the superstars they work their ass off to get to this moment, to get to the celebration that is WrestleMania, and they're working right now to get their spot. So hopefully they can earn it and they can appear. And Philadelphia is going to be a fun night.
Yeah,
Weekend.
Yeah. Like a great night.
But you just think of April. Just think of April for TKO as a company. For April for TKO as a company, they got WrestleMania, and then the week after they got UFC 300. Crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in that case, for what you're talking about for Gunter, I mean, Gunter, since winning that Intercontinental Champion, I mean, he's been constantly one of the best parts of watching WWE, including for Monday Night Raw. I mean, he puts like a banger matches that no need. He doesn't need drama, and his gimmick is very simple.
Respectful. It's almost like ancient martial. Respect the combat, I love that about him. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'll let you continue.
Don't worry about it. I mean, he was winning the title for Intercontinental Champion. I mean, he's been constantly one of the best parts of watching it. He puts on the banger matches that he doesn't need drama. His gimmick is very, very simple, but effective. In the third time of a Roman's title, Gunter has surprised the big dog in showcasing what a champion should like to over without the over top looking. The top booking, honestly, I cannot wait to break like a Haunted Continent and work like maybe like in a WrestleMania 40. They're just gonna need like a great contender. I mean, I've been seeing like a persons they can see Gunter as anything, but if Roman holds the title is long enough, I could definitely see like a very good face rival. Just like a no sense for wrestling who takes like a title away and the company biggest billing, who have lost the title a while ago, or if not for dirty tactics. I mean, many people forget that Gunter has a freaking 807 days as a UK champion before that. I mean, what means that April 2019 has been truly dominated for a champion over the time span. He only pinned 3 times during that time for Drew McIntyre, Ilya Dragunov with NXT, Braun Breaker. I mean, all that you may recognize are the higher level competitors who can believe it beat him. I mean, he puts classic after classic after classic, almost a wish without the need of stable match to interfere every single title defense. If this doesn't prove that Gunter is not the best wrestler in the world today, but also he's the most dominant champion of the modern era.
That's facts. A lot of this I'm gonna take my whole clan and we're gonna mob you. And the family's gonna reign supreme over and over again with distractions, quote unquote bloodline. And that's why I don't respect him. I can't acknowledge him. I love the gimmick, but I can't acknowledge you because at the end of the day, you came in with the team, you had your little Superman moment, but at the end of the day, you're back with the gang. You know what I'm saying? I respect the gang. Trust me, that family is legendary. But at the end of the day, you see someone like Gunter. I mean, yes, Imperial interrupts and gets in the way backstage and other types of the way. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to one-on-one matchups, you have someone that they want to run their mouth and claim and acknowledge me and gets interferences, and then you have someone that actually is defending his title and giving it his all and respecting the sport. And I know, I obviously I respect Roman Reigns. Obviously, I love when he walks out, and obviously it's entertainment. But you got to give one ups to Gunther. You know what I'm saying? He's dominant when he came over from the NXT UK, and he's continued. And this guy's a future champion. Right now, I think it's going to be a maybe Cody's realm for a bit, or maybe Roman's a bit longer, Drew's for a bit, or maybe Seth's a bit longer. But eventually, your LA Knights of the world, your Gunthers of the world, they're going to get theirs.
Yeah,
Hopefully Montez Ford can finally get his.
yeah. Yeah, I know because I just need because he absolutely killed it. I mean, he's gonna be like a great superstar because he's a fighting champ. He win cleans every time. He stand up for the stable and lays the smackdown all these boys. I mean, although it's been doing great to elevate that title, it feels like the secondary title of the company. To be honest, I mean, he doesn't top Roman for me. I mean, the Bloodline story is simply on point. But I mean that he's very phenomenal.
We could easily say that Gunther, like Adam said, shout out to Adam on Premium Takes, my co-host. Like Adam said, he made the Intercontinental title worthy again. Like he made it popular again. Like nothing like the Miz. Like obviously nothing like the Miz. I mean to say it like that. Like the Miz obviously had pride when he had that championship, but it kind of disappeared for a bit. No one really cared about it, and then you give it to Gunther, and then look what he's done with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I would wanna say I know we're putting up on 47 minutes. I say we take the last 13 or so recapping, and not even recapping, just previewing this amazing card that we have this weekend. I think this is honestly, I'm gonna share my screen. I'll let you begin, but we'd have to go down through it. But basically, I honestly think this is outside of the main event. This is a fight night that we're gonna be talking about for a really long time because not only do we have some killers on here, like literally, like look at this fight right here with Khabib's cousin and this guy coming up. I mean, like this guy obviously is gonna get his ass kicked and is probably gonna lose this fight, but I see this guy in a couple of years being something dangerous. And respect to him. His first fight had been in the organization going against a Nurmagomedov. Like, bro, we don't play around. If you're that respected, this guy's gonna make his debut almost against Khabib's cousin, and that's not even talking about Muhammad. Muhammad is, dude, this kid's perfect. I'm getting ahead of myself, but this kid's 23-0 as an amateur and 10-0 as a pro. That's the future, guys. Like this fight night is just loaded, and we didn't even get to Victor yet. We didn't even get to the main event and Shamal. Like, man, and there's some killers down here at the bottom too. But I say we just tackle this 5. I mean, like, I'm sorry for all these guys. We Javid on the court as well, got to prove himself. But we'll talk about this I guess top 5 and we'll end the show. What do you think?
I mean, for me, like Jorsenio was Screwweek versus Shamil Gassiev. I mean, first and foremost, we're saying he's like a formidable knockout machine with all these wins coming up by knockout. He doesn't have like the best record. Recently, he has been exposed for the higher level, the heavyweights on the division. I mean, he's been like an interesting undefeated prospect for coming for Dagestan with a 12-0 record, but he only had 1 win in the UFC, knocking out Martin Budea in the second round. But Gassiev, he does have like a very great knockout power. If he chooses to utilize his grappling skills against Jorginho, he can win this bout because they have yet to see much grappling to him with his UFC career so far. I mean, Jorginho could be like a great pick because he has a more experience at the level. And if Gassiev decides to stand out and trade punches with him instead of implementing grapple heavy game plan, I see like a very knockout victory for Jorginho. I mean, that could happen. But in another point, which is Beto Pedrino versus Tyson Pedro, I mean, Pedrino boasts like very great knockout power with aggressive striking game, potentially exposing Tyson permanently to strong strikers. I mean, while Pedro was more like versatile skill set with effective grappling submissions, Pedrino's relentless pressure and power could like overwhelm Pedro's defense, considering like ability to close distance and like striking significant strikes. When his chances to secure a win, they're very good. I mean, the other fights that I just wanted to look at now at tonight, I mean, they're very well-rounded fighters with strong cards. I mean, in that case, what you're looking about for Alex Perez, I mean, he's a great fighter with strong wrestling and striking, but he may struggle against with elite grapplers. Muhammad Mukabit is a grappling phenomenon.
Yeah.
The grappling is probably striking, showcasing the special control in face. I mean, he relentless grappling ability to dictate the fight pace should pose significant changes for Perez, which they gotta expect him like another W. I mean, it could happen like this one.
Honestly, you're absolutely right on that. And to finish the show off, I mean, like, and obviously you can say something about this chord if you want, but I look at this chord and this is just gonna be one of those chords where honestly it's just gonna be fast. Like it's just gonna be knockouts and submissions. And there's gonna be some decisions, but honestly, when you look at this, when I personally look at this fight chord, I see a lot of I don't want to disrespect anybody. I don't want to say one-sided fights. But there is a lot of fights on here where you can just kind of pick it apart. I mean, like if you want to go to the main event, this is a coming out party. This is to make Shamal a household name. You know, Rosen, you're good and all. You're great as a kickboxing, respected. You know, all of your wins coming by knockouts. But I just think the game has evolved. The game has evolved, and you haven't really won against a top level heavyweight in a really long time. When you go into a top level heavyweight, you said it perfectly. It doesn't hold up. So your striking doesn't hold up. It's like almost like I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it's almost like an amateur getting knockouts his entire amateur career and then going pro and then going decisions. You know what I'm saying? It's not translating. So with Rosenstrike, it's not his game is not translating to the top levels of this game. And the heavyweight division has just improved. Red Killers and when you look at the people that's fighting in heavyweights, well, dude, some of these old vintage heavyweights wouldn't even be ranked in the top 15, and that's how competitive the heavyweight division has gotten. And I just think this is a feed him. This is going to feed him a big name, already a household name, and this is just going to be taking the momentum. And I hate to say it like that because Rosenstrike has a fighting chance, but Shamal is going to wipe the bed with him in under 2 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So I'll take Shamal there. I mean, like if you look at Tyson Pedro, you said it perfectly. I love your knowledge on this game, and that's why we have this great show, and that's why we work so good with each other. Because Tyson Pedro, you know, he is good. He does have a lot of skills, and he can work his way up eventually. But you know, when you go to the ground, you're not gonna really do much. You know, but the point being is like I honestly think Tyson's gonna shoot, and then Victor's just gonna be there to stop him on the ground. I don't think Pedro is really gonna advance on a guy like Victor on the ground, and I just think when it comes to striking, Victor and him is almost identical. I'm not trying to say identical, but you know, someone has to have the edge. But when you really look at it, I mean, like I don't see a path to victory when it comes to Pedro. So I'm going with Victor here. You nailed it right here with Alex Perez talking about his grappling, but then you're going against a phenom. I mean, like this guy can strike you, this guy can hurt you on the feet, this guy can hurt you on the ground. We've seen this guy go against tough competitors. Muhammad hasn't had it easy in the UFC. Yes, the UFC is grooming him, but he hasn't had it easy. He's been going against tough mofos, and he's been passing the test with flying colors. So just like Nurmagomedov. I mean, like this is such a, and then we got Steve. I mean, like we no disrespect against Matt, and I know this is early on in Steve's career, but he's showing some techniques, you know, that could sustain. And when you look at a chord like this, right? And this is why I guess I'm so excited for it, is because you're almost going to see a show of skill here in the sense of, you know, yes, these competitors obviously deserve to be in the octagon, and salute them for showing up. But, you know, there's levels to this sport, and you're going to see it here. You're going to see a lot of the next generation proven by the next generation. And it sucks too, because sometimes we have next generation fights against next generation's fight. And I know this guy is young, and I'm not calling him the next generation just too early, but this guy is good, man. And it just sucks that he has to match up against Nurmagomedov early on in his career. And it's almost like when we seen not to that point. I don't want to do that to be that extreme, but you almost seen Ryan Bader going against John Jones in the past, and you already knew, like, man, this is the future, man. Whoever wins this fight is going to be the future of the fight. And shout out to Ryan Bader, because when you really look down on that fight, Ryan or Darth Vader versus Johnny Bone Jones, right? Johnny Bone Jones goes on the top and has a legacy career, and one of the GOATs is the GOAT, you know, the top of the pyramid when it comes down to MMA. But then Ryan Bader did pretty good with his career as well, right? went on to be Bellator heavyweight champion, went on to be Bellator light heavyweight champion, went on to carry the company Bellator. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, he's went on to, I believe he beat one of the best to ever do it in the last Empire of Emelianenko. You know what I'm saying? Fedor. But at the end of the day, I'm just ranting. I just love talking about the sport, and I'm gonna give the floor right over to Rafael so we can close this out.
Yeah, that's right. Because between this weekend, I mean, this is gonna be like a really excited for the fight night before the UFC 299, which is held in Casella Center, which is the home for the Miami Heat. And they're gonna bring like a lot of action, including for the main card, which is Chito Vera versus Sean O'Malley. I mean, it's gonna be like a great opportunity to make it happen. So there it is, folks. We're just talking about for the UFC Fight Night in Mexico City, the other one in Las Vegas, and then our review for the Elimination Chamber on Perth, Australia. So right now, it is another episode for the Combat Club, which is all the mission martial arts and wrestling fans are united in one podcast where we digest everything what happens on the weekends on pay-per-view, like UFC, AEW, WWE, PFL, Bellator, and everything that's about it. So I just wanted to tell you, thank you everybody for joining us. Salute to those persons who joined up for the chat. So this is Rafael Chacín, as known as El Capitán Rafucho. And here is my co-host, Zenith. Make sure to hit the like, thumbs up, and of course, subscribe to our channels, Zenith and Capitán Rafucho in our YouTube channel. So
respect that, and absolutely not to interrupt you, but remember, guys. I mean, like if you're busy this Saturday, I apologize, but it is a new. These fight nights can vary. So if you're looking to watch the fights this Saturday, it's going to be 10:30 Pacific, 1:30 Eastern for the prelims, and then it's going to be 1 o'clock Pacific, and then 4 o'clock Eastern. So it's early start time for this fight night. Just wanted to let you guys know on that. For you guys can join us next week when we break it all back down again. Back over to you, Rafael.
All right. So I just wanted to say here thank you everybody for joining us. And of course, I will let you see you for another episode of the Combat Club. Another week, another Combat Club coming at you. So get ready, folks, because we're gonna get it started right now. So have a great one, have a great night, have a great Wednesday, and of course, let's get it. So salute you, folks.